The celestial nexus floated silently in the vast expanse of space, its shimmering surface reflecting the light of 1,000 distant suns. It was the heart of the Galactic Council, a sprawling orbital station where representatives from over 1,000 alien species gathered to discuss matters of peace, trade, and survival. For humanity, this summit was more than just another diplomatic meeting. It was their chance to prove they belonged among the stars. Ambassador Layla Voss stood at the edge of the observation deck, her sharp green eyes scanning the endless void outside. She adjusted the collar of her sleek black uniform, emblazoned with Earth's emblem, a blue circle cradling a single white star. Her presence here was a testament to how far humanity had come since first venturing beyond their home planet decades ago. But even now, standing amidst beings who had mastered interstellar travel millennia before humans existed, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were still outsiders. "Ready?" asked Commander Soren, her ever-loyal aide, stepping up beside her. His voice carried both concern and confidence. He knew what was at stake. "As ready as I'll ever be," Layla replied with a faint smile. "Let's hope they're willing to listen." Inside the Grand Chamber, the air buzzed with anticipation. Hundreds of ambassadors filed into their designated seats, each representing a unique culture, language, and history. There were towering insectoids clicking their mandibles in quiet conversation, aquatic Xenari floating gracefully in water-filled pods, and ethereal luminae whose translucent forms glowed softly under the artificial lights. Humanity's delegation occupied a modest corner of the room, their insignificance palpable compared to the ancient civilizations surrounding them. When Layla stepped onto the central platform, whispers rippled through the crowd. Some admired her boldness, others dismissed her as naive. The Vorath ambassador, a hulking figure clad in dark armor, glared at her with piercing red eyes. Known for their ruthless expansionist policies, the Vorath viewed humanity as little more than pests encroaching on their territory. Layla took a deep breath and began her address. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of countless alien gazes. "We stand here today not merely as representatives of our respective peoples, but as stewards of something greater, the future of this galaxy." Her words hung in the air, drawing mixed reactions. Some nodded approvingly, while others exchanged skeptical glances. Layla pressed on, outlining humanity's contributions to recent scientific advancements and emphasizing their commitment to cooperation. Yet beneath her polished rhetoric lay an unspoken tension. She wasn't here just to negotiate treaties or secure resources. Earth had discovered something troubling, something that threatened not only human survival but potentially the entire galaxy. As the session concluded, Layla felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her shoulders. Outside, the stars twinkled indifferently, unaware of the storm brewing within the council chambers. Little did the assembled delegates know, one of their own was about to shatter the fragile balance of galactic politics and ignite a firestorm none could have anticipated. The celestial nexus was alive with activity as delegates from across the galaxy dispersed to their private quarters, embassies, and meeting rooms. But for Ambassador Layla Voss, there was no time to rest. She had barely stepped off the central platform when Commander Soren approached her, his expression grim. "Ambassador," he said quietly, "Admiral Kale is waiting in the secure chamber. He insists it's urgent." Layla nodded, her mind already racing ahead. She followed Soren through a maze of corridors lined with holographic displays showcasing alien art and star maps. The secure chamber was located deep within the station, shielded by layers of encryption and guarded by Earth's most trusted personnel. When they entered, Admiral Kale stood at the center of the dimly lit room, his tall frame silhouetted against a glowing tactical screen. "Layla," Kale greeted her, his voice low but firm. "We've got trouble." Without preamble, he activated the screen, revealing a series of images captured by reconnaissance drones. They showed massive Vorath mining ships extracting strange, pulsating crystals from asteroids near human-controlled space. These weren't ordinary minerals. They were quantum cores, highly volatile energy sources capable of destabilizing entire star systems if mishandled. "This can't be happening," Leela murmured, her eyes narrowing as she studied the footage. "If those cores explode, they'll wipe out everything within light years," Kale finished for her. "And based on what we've seen, the Vorath aren't taking any precautions. They're reckless, or worse, they don't care about collateral damage." Soren clenched his fists. Why would they risk something like this? What do they even want with that much power? Kale leaned forward, resting his hands on the console. "That's the question, isn't it? My guess. Domination. With enough quantum cores, they could weaponize them, or use them to control key trade routes. Either way, humanity is sitting right in their path." Leela's jaw tightened. This wasn't just a threat to Earth. It was a ticking time bomb for the entire galaxy. Yet, as she glanced back at the images, another thought struck her. "Does anyone else know about this?" she asked. Kale shook his head. "Not officially. We intercepted these transmissions covertly. If word gets out that we've been spying..." He didn't need to finish the sentence. Humanity's fragile standing in the Galactic Council would crumble overnight. For a moment, silence filled the room. Each of them knew the stakes. Confronting the Vorath directly would spark outrage, and likely war. But staying silent meant allowing a catastrophe to unfold unchecked. Finally, Leela spoke, her voice resolute. "Then we make them listen. Not just Earth. We bring this to the Council. If they won't act, we'll force their hand." Kale raised an eyebrow. "You realize how dangerous that is, right? Half the species here see us as children playing with fire. They'll tear you apart if you accuse the Vorath without proof." "I'm aware," Leela replied, her tone unwavering. "But we have proof. And if I play my cards right, maybe we can turn some of those children into allies." As the three strategized late into the night, Leela couldn't shake the feeling that the coming days would change everything, for better or worse. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain. Humanity's fate now rested squarely on her shoulders, and failure was not an option. The next morning, the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with anticipation. Word had spread quickly about Ambassador Leela Voss's mysterious request for an emergency session. Delegates from across the galaxy filed into their seats, curiosity mingling with suspicion. Some leaned forward eagerly, while others whispered amongst themselves, wondering what the human diplomat could possibly want now. Leela stood at the edge of the platform, her posture calm but commanding. Beside her, Commander Soren carried a small data drive containing the evidence they had gathered against the Vorath. It was risky to air their findings so publicly, but Leela knew subtlety wouldn't work here. If she wanted action, she needed to provoke a reaction, loud and undeniable. As the session began, the council chair, a towering Zenari ambassador named Calith, addressed the room in his deep, resonant voice. "Ambassador Voss has requested this assembly to present urgent matters concerning galactic security. You may proceed." Taking a step forward, Leela activated the central holoprojector. Instantly, the chamber was filled with images of Vorath mining ships extracting quantum cores from unstable asteroids. The delegates gasped collectively as footage showed cracks forming on the asteroid surfaces, glowing ominously with pent-up energy. "These are quantum cores," Leela explained, her voice steady yet powerful. "Highly volatile materials capable of causing catastrophic explosions if mishandled. Yet, despite the clear danger, the Vorath Dominion continues to mine them recklessly, right on the borders of human space." The Vorath ambassador, Warlord Threction, rose from his seat, his crimson eyes blazing with fury. His armored frame loomed over the chamber as he growled, "This is slander. Fabricated lies meant to undermine our sovereignty." Ignoring him, Leela pressed on. "These actions are not just reckless. They're criminal. They endanger countless lives, including those of innocent species who live near these operations. We cannot stand idly by while the Vorath gamble with the safety of the galaxy." Her words sparked chaos. Voices erupted all around the chamber. Some delegates shouted accusations at the Vorith, while others defended them, accusing Leela of exaggeration or worse, fabrication. The aquatic Zaneri collective envoy slapped a fin-like appendage against their water pod in frustration, sending ripples through the liquid. Even the usually serene Luminae exchanged worried glances, their translucent forms flickering faintly. Friction stepped closer to the platform, his voice dripping with disdain. You dare accuse us without proof. Humans have no place questioning our methods. Your kind barely survived your own planet. You know nothing of true power. Leela didn't flinch. Instead, she played her trump card. With a swift motion, she cued another set of holograms showing intercepted communications between Vorith commanders discussing contingency plans for mass evacuations near affected systems. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This isn't speculation, Leela said, her gaze locking onto Threxians. This is fact. And if the Council refuses to act, humanity will take matters into its own hands. Her declaration sent shockwaves through the chamber. Allies and enemies alike stared at her, some in admiration, others in disbelief. For better or worse, Leela had thrown down the gauntlet, and the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way. The fallout from Leela's explosive revelation was swift and chaotic. As the delegates filed out of the chamber, their reactions ranged from outrage to cautious intrigue. The Vorith ambassador, Warlord Threxian, stormed off with clenched fists, his heavy boots echoing ominously against the metallic floor. His final glare at Leela promised retribution, but she didn't flinch. She knew the battle lines were being drawn, and humanity had just declared its position. Back in her private quarters aboard the Celestial Nexus, Leela reviewed the aftermath with Commander Soren and Admiral Kale. Holographic news feeds flickered across the walls, broadcasting reactions from across the galaxy. Some species condemned her brazen accusations as reckless provocation. Others praised her courage in standing up to the Vorith. But one thing was clear. Neutrality was no longer an option. We've stirred the hornet's nest, Admiral Kale said, rubbing his temples. Threxian won't let this slide. Expect retaliation soon. Leela nodded grimly. Let them come. What we did today wasn't just about exposing the Vorith. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity won't back down when it matters. Soren leaned forward, his expression thoughtful. But not everyone sees us as heroes. Half the Council thinks you're a loose cannon, Ambassador. If we don't build alliances fast, we'll be fighting this war alone. That night, under the cover of darkness, Leela slipped away from the bustling corridors of the station to meet with 3 envoys who had signaled their willingness to talk. They gathered in a secluded lounge reserved for diplomatic negotiations, a small, dimly lit space with low gravity designed to accommodate various alien physiologies. First to arrive were the Scarvith, a nomadic race known for their adaptability and resourcefulness. Their envoy, a wiry figure named Zerk, floated into the room on anti-gravity boots, his sharp eyes scanning every corner suspiciously. Next came the Luminae, represented by a shimmering, translucent being called Elira, whose voice resonated like a soft chime. Finally, there were the Voidwalkers, shadowy beings cloaked in dark robes, their faces obscured entirely. Their leader introduced himself simply as Kalos. Leela wasted no time getting to the point. Thank you for meeting me, she began, her tone steady but respectful. What I showed the Council today isn't just a threat to Earth. It's a threat to all of us. The Vorith are playing with forces they can't control. If something goes wrong, billions will die. Zerk crossed his arms, his skepticism evident. And why should we trust you? You humans are unpredictable. For all we know, this could be some ploy to gain power. Elira chimed in, her melodic voice soothing yet firm. Trust is earned, Ambassador, not given freely. But we agree, the Vorith must be stopped. Kalos remained silent, his presence unnerving. When he finally spoke, his voice was deep and gravelly. We have seen what happens when tyrants go unchecked. We will join your cause. but only if you guarantee protection for our people." Leela met each of their gazes, her resolve unwavering. "I can't promise safety, because none of us will truly be safe until the Vorith are held accountable. But I can promise this: humanity will stand with you. Together, we can protect not just ourselves, but the entire galaxy." After hours of tense negotiation, a fragile agreement was reached. The coalition was formed, not out of mutual trust, but out of shared desperation. As Leela left the lounge, she felt a glimmer of hope. Humanity wasn't alone anymore. But unity came at a cost. Now, every decision she made would affect not just Earth, but countless lives across the stars. The days following the formation of the fragile coalition were tense. Whispers of Leela's defiance spread like wildfire, igniting debates in every corner of the galaxy. Some species admired her boldness, seeing her as a symbol of resistance against the Vorith's unchecked aggression. Others viewed her actions as reckless provocation, fearing she had opened Pandora's box and unleashed chaos upon the stars. Meanwhile, the Vorith responded with chilling precision. Within hours of Leela's accusations, their massive warships descended upon human colonies near contested space, blockading trade routes and cutting off communication. Warlord Threxion broadcast a message across all galactic channels, a stark ultimatum delivered in his cold, guttural voice. "Withdraw your false claims against the Dominion, or face annihilation. Humanity's insolence will not go unpunished." Earth trembled under the weight of this threat. Panic rippled through its government, with calls for Leela to step down and negotiate peace flooding in from every direction. Even Admiral Kale urged caution, warning that humanity wasn't ready for an all-out war with the mighty Vorith. But Leela refused to back down. Standing before Earth's High Council via holographic transmission, she argued passionately, "If we yield now, we're signing our own death warrant and condemning countless others to suffer under Vorith tyranny. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about doing what's right." Her determination silenced her critics for a moment, but the decision ultimately rested with Earth's leaders, who convened in emergency sessions to decide humanity's fate. Back aboard the Celestial Nexus, Leela prepared for what might be her final stand. When the time came, she addressed the Galactic Council once more, her voice ringing out with unwavering resolve. "To the Vorith Dominion," she declared, turning toward Threxion's glowering figure, "your blockade is an act of war. To the rest of you," she gestured to the assembled delegates, "I ask you to choose sides. Will you stand by while innocent lives are sacrificed for greed and power, or will you join me in defending the future of this galaxy?" Her words electrified the chamber. Smaller delegations, the Scarvith, Luminae, Voidwalkers, and others, nodded in agreement, emboldened by her courage. Larger factions hesitated, torn between fear of the Vorith and admiration for Leila's audacity. For a fleeting moment, it seemed possible that she had tipped the scales. But Threxion's response was swift and brutal. His ships launched targeted strikes on unaligned colonies along the border, forcing neutral species to flee or swear allegiance to the Dominion. Fear gripped the galaxy as reports of destruction poured in. Many accused Leela of provoking disaster, claiming her actions had destabilized the fragile peace. Yet amidst the turmoil, something unexpected happened. On oppressed worlds under Vorith control, whispers of rebellion began to rise. Inspired by Leila's defiance, enslaved populations sabotaged supply lines, attacked outposts, and rose up against their oppressors. The Vorith's grip on the galaxy began to falter, not because of military might, but because of hope. As Leela watched these events unfold from the safety of her quarters, she received a cryptic message from an unknown sender. "You've lit a fire that cannot be extinguished. Be careful where the flames spread." It was signed only with a single symbol, a spiral. Leila stared at it, unsure whether it was a warning or encouragement. One thing was certain: the galaxy had changed forever, and there was no turning back. Word of Ambassador Leila Voss's defiance spread far beyond the polished halls of the Galactic Council, reaching even the darkest corners of the galaxy. On oppressed worlds under Vorith control, her speech became a rallying cry for those who had long suffered in silence. The message was clear: resistance was possible, and it could succeed. On the industrial planet of Kaler 7, enslaved workers toiled endlessly in mines rich with quantum cores. For years, they had endured brutal conditions under Vorith overseers, their lives valued only for the resources they extracted. But when news of Leela's ultimatum reached them, hope ignited like wildfire. Late one night, a group of miners gathered in secret, their faces illuminated by flickering lanterns. She stood up to the Vorith, whispered Jarek, a wiry human laborer who had once called Earth home. If she can do it, so can we. The next morning, chaos erupted across Kaler 7. Miners sabotaged machinery, collapsing tunnels, and halting production. Others attacked Vorith patrols, using improvised weapons crafted from mining tools. Though poorly armed and outnumbered, their determination was unshakable. By the time reinforcements arrived, the damage had already been done, and the rebellion had inspired similar uprisings on neighboring worlds. Back on Earth, public opinion shifted dramatically in Leela's favor. Once wary citizens now rallied behind her, viewing her as a symbol of humanity's resilience and moral courage. Cities buzzed with protests demanding support for her cause, while volunteers flooded recruitment centers eager to join Earth's fledgling space fleet. Even skeptics within the government found themselves swayed by the tide of patriotism sweeping the planet. But not everyone supported her crusade. A faction within Earth's High Council, led by Senator Marcus Hale, plotted to remove her discreetly. They feared that her actions would doom humanity, leaving Earth vulnerable to retaliation from both the Vorith and other alien powers. Secret meetings were held in shadowy chambers, where plans were drafted to replace her with someone more cautious, someone willing to negotiate peace at any cost. Leela, however, remained unaware of these machinations. Her focus was elsewhere. One evening, as she reviewed intelligence reports aboard the Celestial Nexus, an anonymous message appeared on her private terminal. It contained coordinates and a brief warning. "Meet me if you want answers about the Vorith's true plans." Curiosity outweighed caution. Accompanied by Commander Soren, Leela traveled to the designated location, a derelict orbital station drifting near the edge of Vorith-controlled space. There she met her informant, a former Vorith engineer named Vrax, his armor stripped away and his face gaunt with exhaustion. "They're building something," Vrax said hoarsely, handing her a data chip, a weapon capable of collapsing stars. "If they finish it, no one will be safe, not even the Council." As Leela absorbed this revelation, dread settled over her. The stakes had just become unimaginably higher. Whatever happened next, humanity, and the entire galaxy, would need every ally it could find. And Leela knew she couldn't afford to trust anyone blindly, not even her own people. The fragile coalition Leela had painstakingly built was about to fracture, and not because of the Vorith. It happened during a covert strategy session aboard the Celestial Nexus, where representatives from the Scarvith, Luminae, and Voidwalkers gathered to finalize plans for their next move. Tensions were already high. Trust among them was paper-thin, held together only by shared desperation. Leela leaned over a holographic map displaying the Vorith's key strongholds. "If we strike here," she said, pointing to a heavily fortified mining outpost, "we can cut off their supply lines and cripple their operations." Zerk, the wiry Scarvith envoy, frowned. "Too risky. They'll retaliate with everything they've got." "And if we don't act now," Leela countered sharply, "they'll finish building whatever weapon Vrax warned us about. We don't have time to hesitate." Before Zerk could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed as automated voices announced a security breach. Moments later, Commander Soren burst into the room, his face pale. "Ambassador, we've been compromised. Someone leaked our plans to the Vorith." Chaos erupted. The Luminae envoy, Elira, shimmered with agitation, her melodic voice rising in accusation. "This is betrayal. One of us has betrayed the coalition. All eyes turned to Zerk, who raised his hands defensively. Don't look at me. I didn't. But the evidence was damning. Intercepted transmissions traced back to a Scarvith communications device, one that matched Zerk's personal signature. Lila stared at him, her heart sinking. Zerk, how could you? It wasn't me, he protested, his voice cracking under the weight of suspicion. I swear someone must have framed me. Kalos, the enigmatic leader of the Voidwalkers, stepped forward, his shadowy form radiating menace. Words mean nothing. Actions define loyalty. If the Scarvith cannot be trusted, then this alliance is doomed. Leela intervened before things escalated further. We need answers, not accusations. Zerk, come with me. We'll get to the bottom of this. Hours later, Leela traveled to the Scarvith homeworld, a desolate planet ravaged by centuries of nomadic survival. She confronted their leader, Matriarch Vyra, in a dimly lit council chamber carved into jagged cliffs. Vyra listened silently as Leela presented the evidence, her expression unreadable. Finally, Vyra sighed, her voice heavy with regret. It's true. Zerk acted on my orders, but it wasn't out of malice. He did it to save our people. Leela's stomach churned. What are you talking about? The Vorath threatened genocide, Vyra admitted, her shoulders slumping. They gave us an ultimatum. Betray you or watch our entire race wiped out. What choice did we have? For a moment, Leela couldn't speak. Her mind raced with anger, frustration, and sorrow. The Scarvith weren't villains. They were victims, caught between two impossible forces, yet their betrayal left humanity more vulnerable than ever. You should have come to me, Leela said finally, her voice trembling with emotion. Together, we might have found another way. But now, she trailed off, unable to finish the thought. As she prepared to leave, Vyra called after her. Ambassador, please understand. We're still willing to fight. Just give us a chance to make amends. Leela nodded stiffly, though doubt clouded her mind. Trust was fragile, and forgiveness even harder to earn. But as she boarded her ship, she realized something crucial. Betrayal wasn't just external, it was a test of humanity's resolve. Could they rise above vengeance and unite despite the fractures? The answer would determine whether they survived the storm ahead. With time running out and the Vorath superweapon nearing completion, Leela knew they couldn't afford to wait any longer. Humanity and its fractured coalition had no choice but to strike first. Their target was Epsilon 9, a heavily fortified asteroid base guarding the gateway to the Vorath's quantum core fields. If they could seize control of Epsilon 9, they would cut off the Dominion's access to the volatile energy sources fueling their deadly project. The battle plan was risky, relying on speed, stealth, and sheer determination. Admiral Kale commanded Earth's fleet, coordinating with the Luminae and Voidwalkers for support. The Scarvith, eager to redeem themselves, volunteered to lead diversionary attacks, drawing Vorath reinforcements away from the main assault. It was a desperate gamble, but Leela trusted that every species involved understood what was at stake. As the coalition forces approached Epsilon 9, the asteroid loomed ahead like a jagged scar against the void of space. Its surface bristled with defensive turrets and docking bays teeming with Vorath warships. The silence before the storm was deafening, broken only by the hum of engines and the occasional crackle of static over comms. "This is it," Admiral Kale said grimly as he addressed his crew aboard the flagship Eclipse. "Stay sharp. We don't get a second chance." The battle began with a barrage of missiles launched by the Voidwalkers' cloaked vessels, disabling key turrets and creating an opening for the main fleet. Earth's ships surged forward, unleashing concentrated fire on the remaining defenses. Explosions lit up the asteroid's surface as metal shards and debris spiraled into space. But the Vorath fought back fiercely. Waves of fighters swarmed the coalition ships, forcing them into chaotic dogfights. Commander Soren coordinated evasive maneuvers from the Eclipse, his voice steady despite the chaos. Hold formation. Keep pushing toward the core facility. Meanwhile, Leela herself joined the fight, not from the safety of a command center, but aboard a small strike craft piloted by a daring Lumine warrior named Elira. Together, they led a team of ground troops tasked with infiltrating the asteroid's central hub and disabling its power grid. As their ship descended through enemy fire, Leela gripped her seat tightly, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Inside the asteroid, the air was thick with smoke and the acrid smell of burning circuits. The strike team moved swiftly, taking down Vorath guards and hacking security systems. Every step felt like walking through a minefield. Traps lurked around every corner, and reinforcements arrived faster than expected. But Leela refused to falter. Her resolve inspired those around her, even as exhaustion weighed heavily on their shoulders. Back in orbit, the tide of the battle turned when Admiral Kale made the ultimate sacrifice. Realizing the Vorath were about to launch a counterattack that could decimate the Coalition fleet, he ordered the Eclipse to ram directly into their flagship. The explosion shook the entire battlefield, scattering Vorath forces and giving the Coalition the upper hand. By the time Leela and her team disabled the asteroid's core, the skies above Epsilon 9 were filled with drifting wreckage and triumphant cheers. They had won, but at a devastating cost. As Leela gazed out at the smoldering remains of the battlefield, she whispered a silent vow. Humanity would honor these sacrifices by finishing what they started. The road ahead was still long, but hope burned brighter than ever. The victory at Epsilon 9 came at a steep price, but it also yielded something invaluable: access to the Vorath's encrypted databases. As Coalition engineers worked tirelessly to decrypt the data, Leela paced anxiously in the makeshift command center aboard the Celestial Nexus. Her mind raced with questions. What secrets were hidden within those files? Would they finally uncover the full extent of the Vorath's plans? Hours later, Commander Soren approached her, his expression grave. "Ambassador, you need to see this." Leela followed him to a secure terminal where Admiral Kale's successor, Captain Ria Torres, stood waiting. On the screen was a series of schematics and technical diagrams detailing a massive weapon unlike anything humanity had ever seen. At its core was a mechanism designed to harness quantum cores' unstable energy, not just to power ships or weapons, but to collapse entire stars. This is monstrous," Leela murmured, her voice trembling as she pieced together the implications. They weren't just mining quantum cores for resources. They were building a doomsday device capable of annihilating solar systems. Captain Torres nodded grimly. "It gets worse. According to these logs, they've already begun testing it on uninhabited star systems near their borders. If they perfect it and deploy it, they could hold the entire galaxy hostage." Elira, the Lumine envoy who had fought alongside Leela during the battle, floated closer, her translucent form glowing faintly. "This changes everything. Even those who doubted your cause will have no choice but to act now." Kalos, the enigmatic leader of the Voidwalkers, added in his deep, gravelly voice, "The Vorath cannot be allowed to wield such power. This weapon must be destroyed, no matter the cost." But Leela knew that exposing this truth wouldn't be enough. She needed proof undeniable, even to the most skeptical members of the Galactic Council. With Soren's help, she compiled the decrypted data into a comprehensive presentation, complete with holographic simulations showing the catastrophic effects of the weapon. It was horrifyingly clear. If the Vorath succeeded, billions of lives would be lost, and the galaxy itself might unravel. When she addressed the council once more, the chamber fell silent as the holograms played out before them. Stars imploded, planets disintegrated, and whole civilizations vanished in an instant. Gasps echoed through the room as delegates realized the scale of the threat. "This is not speculation," Leela declared, her voice ringing with authority. "This is reality. The Vorath have crossed a line from which there is no return. If we do not stand united against them now, none of us will survive to regret it." For once, even the most powerful factions, The Zenari Collective, the Hive Concordance, and others could not deny the evidence. Warlord Threxion rose to protest, but his words were drowned out by outrage. For the first time in galactic history, the Council voted unanimously to authorize military action against the Vorath Dominion. As Leela left the chamber, she felt a mix of triumph and dread. They had won the support of the galaxy. But war loomed ahead, darker and deadlier than anything they had faced before. Humanity had proven itself worthy of standing among the stars, but the true test of their courage was yet to come. The final confrontation unfolded above the Vorath homeworld, a fiery planet shrouded in perpetual storms and surrounded by an impenetrable ring of defense satellites. The Coalition fleet, human ships flying alongside Lumine vessels, Voidwalker dreadnoughts, and even reformed Scarvith fighters, approached cautiously, their weapons primed for battle. This was it, the decisive moment that would determine the fate of the galaxy. Leela stood on the bridge of the Celestial Nexus, now retrofitted as humanity's flagship. Her hands gripped the railing tightly as holographic displays showed real-time updates from the battlefield. Explosions lit up the void as waves of Vorath warships clashed with the Coalition forces. Despite being outnumbered, the United Fleet fought with unmatched determination, driven by the knowledge that failure meant extinction. Admiral Threxion is mobilizing his personal armada, Commander Soren reported, his voice tense. They're heading straight for us. Leela nodded grimly. Then we hold the line. No retreat, not today. As the fighting intensified, Leela made a bold decision. She ordered her ship to break formation and lead a daring strike directly toward the Vorath command center orbiting their homeworld. It was a risky move, but she knew they couldn't win without dismantling the Dominion's leadership. Elira and Kalos joined her assault, their ships forming a protective wedge around the Nexus. The journey through enemy lines was harrowing. Vorath fighters swarmed them relentlessly, forcing the Coalition pilots into grueling dogfights. Inside the Nexus, alarms blared as hull breaches were reported on lower decks. Yet Leela remained steadfast, rallying her crew with unwavering resolve. "We've come too far to give up now," she shouted over the chaos. "For Earth, for the galaxy, for every life depending on us." When they finally reached the Vorath command station, Leela personally led a boarding party onto the massive structure. Surrounded by elite soldiers from each allied species, she moved swiftly through corridors filled with smoke and sparks, taking down guards and disabling security systems. Every step brought them closer to Warlord Threxion, who awaited them in the central chamber. The confrontation was explosive. Threxion, clad in heavy armor and wielding advanced weaponry, fought savagely, but he was no match for the combined strength of the Coalition team. In the end, Leela faced him alone, her weapon aimed squarely at his chest. "It's over, Threxion," she said firmly. "Your reign of terror ends here." With Threxion captured and the command center destroyed, the Vorath forces fell into disarray. Their superweapon, still incomplete, self-destructed in a spectacular burst of energy that illuminated the skies of their homeworld. The battle was won, but at great cost. Ships drifted lifelessly in space, and countless lives had been lost. Days later, aboard the Celestial Nexus, Leela addressed the Galactic Council one last time. Her uniform bore scorch marks, and exhaustion lined her face, but her spirit burned brighter than ever. "Today we proved that unity can overcome tyranny," she declared. "But this victory must not be the end. It must be the beginning of a new era where cooperation triumphs over greed and fear." The chamber erupted in applause, marking humanity's emergence as a true galactic power. Though scared by war, the galaxy looked toward a brighter future, one forged by courage, sacrifice, and hope. And Leela Voss, once dismissed as reckless, stood tall as its beacon of change.